Good morning. In the next slides, I'm going to show you a brief extract from my lecture at the Yokohama City University, Japan, on 14th October 2016. The aim I'm pushing with this presentation is to show you the kind of research I am currently doing. In this sense, I would like to start by this picture of Samurai Hasekura Tsunenaga, who is in fact the responsible of my research in the sense of celebrating his anniversary, his 400th anniversary of visiting Spain with the first Japanese embassy to Spain in the 16th and 17th century. Celebrating this anniversary, I say, was the reason of having the opportunity of writing the white book of the Japanese companies in Spain. That is the root, the first source of this research. In this book, I interview many Japanese managers in Spain, and I had the chance of realizing the importance of many thoughts and many ways of thinking that I have never seen before this time. In this sense, I collect here in this slide some of the literal answers and literal statements that managers gave me at those interviews. At the end of then, I realized that I was dealing with a different kind of culture, of management culture I have never seen before, and that it was very interesting and it really worth to dip into this new kind of management. Along the 6 chapters of the white book, I entered into the special features and special characteristics of this model and the roots, historic, politic, economic, and so on, that may explain this different management model. The first thing I would like to consider with you is the special complex area that is Asia, an area with many countries that from a long time ago had a difficult and complex relationship among them. As you can see, China, the kingdom of the century in Chinese, has 14 borders with its neighbors, and with some of them has underlying non-exploited conflicts, bad conflicts indeed. For instance, with Japan, Korea, and some countries in the South China Sea. Geographically, the east area of Asia is about 12,000 kilometers from the west, and between the east and the west there is a vast area of land very poorly inhabited. Along the years until the 13th century, there were seldom events of communication between the two poles, and just there are references of some commercial relationship during the Roman times, and also some virus contagious between the two areas during the first centuries of the first millennia. But it's not until the 13th century, with the inaugural trips of Marco Polo that started regular, there is very frequent commercial missions between the two poles. The sense of their relations were not just from the west to the east, but also to the east from the west. And we have the example of Hasekura-san, of the samurai of the first slides of this presentation, that traveled from Japan to Spain throughout Mexico in the 17th century. And here at the right side of the slide you can see the ship, the San Buenaventura, in which he traveled at that time. And what is happening now? What is the current state of the relationship between the two poles, the east and the west? The fact now is that it's no longer seldom relationships between them, but they really live together online. So it's not now about a sporadic relationship, but living together in the whole sense. And what are the reasons of the re-emerging in some manners of the East in the last decades? I think the main reasons are related to the important investment in education in the Asian area in the last 50 years, more or less, especially in China and Japan. And you can see in these slides the terrific increment of wealth in the Asian area that it has its translation to the increment of the economic development indexes in this area. And of course, as I told you before, the main reason of these increments are the incredible investment and expenditure on upper education in the Asian area. So at the end of the day, why is so important Asia in this moment, and why is so necessary to understand the Asian management models, and for this slide especially the Japanese one, and why, as I said, it's so important to understand them for a Western citizen. I think the answer, apart from what I told before, is what is described in this graphic of this slide. There is that Asia is an area that is still growing at very significant rates. And what is the happy news of all of this, apart from the growth of Asia and the growth of the East-West relationships? Well, the good news and the reason for happiness is that the world in the future will likely be more glamorous and more happy than it is now, as for instance The Economist forecasted in its publication of the world in 2050. And once we have told about the East and West relationships and the current status of this relationship, what are the main cultural roots of the West and East management models? Starting by the latter, by the Eastern management model, I would say that the main underlying cultural base of the Asian management models is the Confucian thought, the Confucius way of thinking that is widespread along Asia, and that can be resumed in the 5 main relationships of the Confucius way of thinking. On the other hand, regarding Western cultural base, we could say that it is based on Greek and Roman thought that after that was integrated into Christian base of values. So, taking into account both roots, both sources of Eastern and Western way of thinking, we could reach that there are different ways of action between the two styles that are based on the already mentioned roots. Finally, I would like to mention that from the research carried out with the white paper of Japanese companies, we develop a relationship between the different methodologies of working, Japanese methodologies, and the cultural based concepts in Japanese regular culture. So, summing up, I would like to throw you 3 questions that I think wrap up very well what we have developed in this presentation. So, the first one is: the business cultural environment so different in these countries, Eastern and Western ones? Do we work better with or in these companies if we know previously the culture? I ask you please to answer this question and to think about it. The second one could be: is Eastern management very different from what is done in Western companies? Are there one or more Oriental management models? Can we learn from each one? And the third one, for a young man, woman under 30, Eastern and Western young citizen, is it relevant to know the past and present of the others? I hope this presentation has been useful for you, and you could learn from it some things you didn't know about relationship between the East and the West, and the sources of the different styles of management between the both areas of the world. If you want to further know about these topics, you can send me an email to the address on the slide, and of course you can enter into my LinkedIn website. I hope it's been interesting for you, and thank you very much.